realized how much people hate children until doing research for this video. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, hi, my name is Zhariya, and I typically make commentary videos just like this one.
So the audio in this video is going to be a little bit spotty. I'm sorry. I know I literally said that it was going to be getting better, but I filmed this video. I thought it was great, and a couple days passed. I went to go edit the video, and the audio just sounds not the best. And I don't have the time to re-record it because it's already Tuesday. So yeah, I'm sorry. It's gonna get better, I promise. This microphone is just a lot to process right now. But it's okay. It sounds good for like 85% of the video, but then, the other percentage is just a little bit iffy at certain points. So I'm very sorry. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and let me know your thoughts on the child free movement and all that stuff.
Hope you guys had an amazing week. If you wanted an update, my dog is doing a little bit better. So let's hope for the best with her ACL and all that stuff. But today's video is going to be interesting because I'm talking about the child free movement, and it's something that has been a thing for a very long time, for the past 10 years, I would say. And I wanted to talk about it because I've been seeing it all over my TikTok page, which then in turn has made me like look more into it. And that's where this video is, coming from. But if you have been living under a rock for the past few years, then you have definitely heard at some point about the child free movement, the childless movement, the voluntary childless movement, whatever it is. There's so many iterations of it, but I'm gonna be calling it the child free movement for the sake of this video for continuity. You've also probably heard, I don't even know how many news publications have been saying it, that millennials and Gen Z have been having less children than Generation X and baby boomers. Now, the reason why, we'll get into it a little bit later, but the pandemic caused a little bit of an uptick, which they call the baby bump, because people were stuck at home with their significant others and had nothing else to do, so they just had children. But other than that, the rate of children being born to like the what is it, the birth to mortality rate has been a little bit off recently. Typically, in life, there are two different camps of people. There are the people who decide to have kids in their 20s so they can have fun in their 40s. And then there are people who decide to have kids in their 30s so they can really fully enjoy their 20s. That's usually been like obviously there are teen moms, but aside from that, and that's usually been the vibe. People decide to have kids early, or people decide to have kids a little bit later, so they can like develop their careers, do a bunch of stuff, and all of that stuff. But we have this new subset of individuals that have kind of decided that instead of spending their money on a child, they're just going to spend it on themselves because it's their money. They've worked for it. They don't want children, so more money for them. And this movement has, started, in the 2010s, but has gotten a lot more intense in the past few years. And I want to talk about it. So first, maybe asking, what is the child-free movement, right? And the child-free movement is a lot of things. Sam Wolf actually said, procreation must be thought of in terms of benefits and risks. It is not a decision that should be made thoughtlessly, casually, or based on mere social expectations, which is kind of the basis of this entire movement, right? Because people don't want to have kids just because they're being forced to have kids. They are choosing not to have kids because they don't feel like they need to have kids. So the child free movement is more than just believing that nobody should have kids because of the environment or, a lot of stuff. Um, they typically believe in the idea that having children is not for everyone. You obviously go to the supermarket, you see someone with a child, and you think to yourself, wow, some people just shouldn't have kids. The people that shouldn't have kids are the people that are in this movement. They're like, I know I shouldn't have kids, so I'm not going to have kids. So that's kind of the first little section of the child free movement. There's also believing that they should have their own individuality when it comes to children. They think that a lot of people, their identity is having children. They don't want to become, like, for instance, a lot of women, they don't want to just be seen as a vessel for a child, a man's child. They want to be seen as something more than that. And not having a kid allows a person to, find themselves, learn more about themselves, and not just be seen as, a parent because, a person wants to be seen as so much more than that. And also the biggest chunk of people that are in the child free movement, and I would say this is like the first two were like, yeah, but like this is like the biggest one, is some people think they shouldn't have kids because of their circumstances. Now, I'm one of those people I think I should not have a child right now because if I did, where would the kid live? Well, with my mom. But all that to say is that a lot of people don't think they think that they shouldn't have kids because of the circumstances that they are in. They don't want to bring a child into the world if they can barely afford how to eat. How are they going to feed a child? Many vloggers and stuff like that, when it comes to individuality, it's kind of weird seeing like family vloggers, because you can see them exploiting their kids. Some of them will have allegedly more children just to make more money off of them. The younger kids get older and they're like, oh, we need to milk. I need to do another delivery vlog. I need to do another pregnancy vlog. Let's just have another kid for our content. And I think that's really messed up. So these people they don't think they should have children in general. They want to be seen as individual human beings, not just a parent. They don't want to have a kid for that reason, or they just don't have the ability to take care of a child, and they're being responsible by not having a kid because they know they couldn't provide a life for that child. So that's kind of the general umbrella for the child-free movement. Obviously, there are people who hate children. Um, People who think children are parasites, so on and so forth. We're not going to talk about that. So I actually looked at this website is called stophavingkids.org, and it states some of the reasons why people don't want to have kids. So I'm going to give you guys not all the stuff because some of it was like not safe for work reasons, but I'm going to tell you the big bulk of the reasons as to why they say people don't want to have kids. They want to have more free time, more freedom in general. They want the ability to be spontaneous. You can't just drop everything and decide to go to Bali if you have a child. You have to figure out what you're going to do with the kid. If you're going to, have a babysitter, if you're going to bring the kid with you need to get a baby passport, all that stuff. It's easier to not have to deal with all of that, obviously. Um, they want the ability to be able to give back to the world. They want, for environmental reasons or they want to help the community more, but they can't do that if they have a kid. Um, they have they don't want to have issues of falling into financial hardship or having issues with money, and hunger. They're going to get more sleep. That's what they believe. They're going to be less stressed. They're going to be more relaxed. They're going to have more privacy and peace and solitude. They can have actual days off instead of, your parent. You have a day off. That means your kid doesn't go to daycare. You watch your kid on your day off. They get to maintain their career goals. They get to be able to take better care of themselves. They get to go shopping. They get to go cooking and enjoy those escapades. Because, if you've been to a grocery store, I'm sure you've seen many kids just screaming and crying, having tantrums. I was one of those kids having tantrums inside a grocery store. So I know it's embarrassing to have a kid that's acting up in public. People have the ability to invest more in new skills and hobbies. They have the ability to travel more. They're able to make more long lasting relationships. And this is more than just dating. But, they say oftentimes at retirement homes, people who end up quote unquote dying alone and not having a lot of visitors are typically the ones that have children. The reason why being is that their adult friendships kind of lacked due to them having children. So oftentimes people who were childless have more visitors in retirement homes because they had so many more meaningful, long living adult relationships. Um, so that's one. So you get to maintain those relationships with people. If you do end up having divorce, or if you do end up having relationship issues with your partner, you're not gonna have to put your child through the trauma of going through a divorce. They have they don't have to hire a babysitter. They don't have to deal with daycare costs, which daycare is so expensive. When I found out how expensive daycare was, that was enough birth control for me. I was like, I cannot afford that. They have a smaller environmental carbon footprint, though carbon footprint is like a whole other topic that they're not going to discuss in today's video. You don't have to deal with crying, screaming, changing diapers, a lot of messes. You don't have to argue about differing parenting styles, especially if you do get a divorce. The kid goes to one place, has one parenting style. They go to your place, has a different parenting style. They don't have to worry about the health risks that come with giving birth. There's a lot of, mental health issues that can come, like postpartum. You can even die from giving birth, which is very common, especially if you're Black. You're more likely to die in childbirth if you're Black than if you're not Black, which is also something that some people are like, I don't want to go through that. You don't have to go through the process of cleaning after a child, making sure the child is being enriched, teaching them, making sure that they're actual human beings. And there's obviously so many more, but a lot of kids, especially I'll say for Gen Z, because I am a Gen Z gal, grew up seeing their parents either not loving them, that sounds wrong. But I feel like you can kind of see whenever a kid's parents didn't want them. And that's a really heartbreaking thing to see. And that kid will spend the rest of their life trying to prove that there's a reason that they're alive, which is very, very depressing. And you also see, for me, I know people with children, people with millennials obviously know people who have children, and they've seen their lives be not ruined, but their lives changed and them not having these same things that they had before because they have children. And you may be thinking to yourself that that's not really a big deal. And why is there a whole movement? There doesn't need to be a movement for not having kids. Just don't have kids and stay quiet about it. But the reason why is because there's so much stigma when it comes to not having a kid. If you're 35 and you don't have a child, people are looking at you like you're crazy. The big deal and why this is such a big deal is because older generations have typically seen women as just the vessel for having children. If you don't have a child, you're not worth as much, or you're not seen as desirable. There are people that obviously like young gravy, and MILF manner is a thing now. People are attracted to women who have been moms before, whether they take care of their kids in general. Just the fact that they've given birth is like a whole thing. People sexualize moms. People think that you need to have a kid in order to have any sort of value, and people are saying I'm valuable without having kids. So obviously the movement is more important for women than it is for men, but I still think in general that it is a movement that needs to be talked about. People need to feel comfortable by choosing to not have children. Also, I want to say that many women actually can't have children in general. It's not something wrong. It's like something that you can't control. One day you may wake up and you may not be able to have kids, and that's really heartbreaking. And a lot of women feel shame because they can't have children, because society has made them think that the only way that they can be seen as important, is by having kids. And I think that's really disheartening. And I think that's why this movement is so important. This has been a trend since about 2014, and now is obviously becoming a lot bigger as of recent. And I think that the trend has becoming more popular as of recent because people are becoming more socially conscious of the impact of what a child is going to put on the earth, or knowing how much a child is going to cost, and understanding that it's probably not wise to have a child if you can barely afford to have a dog, or so many things like that. People are becoming more socially conscious, especially when it comes to raising a kid and making sure the kid has everything that they need, because you don't want to traumatize a kid and abuse a child, because it's like that's sucks. So now I want to get into child-free TikTok, because that is what's been swamping my internet for the past couple of weeks. Now, this movement on TikTok has become very polarizing. There is a subset of people who actually think that children are the worst possible things ever. They deeply hate children. They want to live in child free spaces. They want to go on cruises without children. They want to have weddings without children. They don't want to be in spaces with children. That's not what I'm talking about in this video. I'm talking about people who understand kids and don't hate kids. They just know that they don't want kids for themselves. Tara Mooney did make a video on the child hater subreddits and stuff like that. If you want to watch that, I recommend watching it after this video. Do not click off just to watch Tara's video, because this is my channel. Watch me. But watch that video if you want to learn more about the baby haters. But we're talking about people who want to be child free, but they don't hate kids. They just don't want kids for themselves. Now, there is also this recent trend on TikTok called DINKS, which stands for double income, no kids.
I just learned the phrase DINK, which means double income, no kids. And I was like, that sounds pretty lit.
These people like to talk about how they're very proud of not having kids, and they're very happy with their decision to not have children. They're able to do more things. They can save for a house. They can go on so many trips, just do so many fun things. They can go on dates. They can do whatever they want, be spontaneous, and not have to worry about having a child. And this trend on TikTok is something that's so innocent. People talking about how they're happy they didn't decide to have kids, which, is their right. You don't have to have children. This isn't like Handmaid's Tale. Like, you can choose to not have a kid. But there are so many haters on this trend to be child free, and the haters for this trend are typically parents themselves.
So you agree. being a parent is trash and being child free by choice is the better option. I would just like to remind the parents of the world that you chose to be a parent. You chose to birth and raise a human being. Okay? Nobody forced you to do that. So if that decision sucks so hard that you feel like you have won the gold of the complaining Olympics, maybe you shouldn't have had children. Maybe you made the wrong choice.
This movement is very liberating for young people, all across the world. And I find that oftentimes whenever I see a person hating on a person who is choosing to be child free, are people that are already parents. And what makes it even worse is that whenever parents feel like they regret having kids and then have to endlessly defend having kids when they feel like they shouldn't have had kids themselves, and feeling like, oh, you're hating for not having a kid, like you're just jealous, but in reality, they don't want their kid either. Also, I want to mention that one of the reasons why a lot of people want to be child free is because they understand that parents regret having kids. And if you've seen anyone whose parents regret them, it is very obvious. There's so many TV shows and movies that I would watch when I was younger where people would talk about how having kids ruined their lives, how their dreams got crushed because they had a child. People abandon their kids because they feel like that they're not ready to have kids, and they feel like that they want to do more with their life than just be a parent. Um, and it's interesting because there is a subreddit where people talk about regretting being parents. And it is literally, if you want to cry, go read that Reddit page. Like just do it, because it is honestly the most disheartening. Like, if I didn't want kids before, I definitely don't want kids now, from seeing people posting about being parents and hating it and regretting it so much. And that's what I feel like personally. I know that if I were to have a kid right now, I couldn't give a child my all. I really couldn't. I have too many things going on in my life. I want to do so many important things. I want to go to grad school. I want to be an actor. I want to be in movies. I want to be in TV. I want to be on Broadway. There are so many things that I want to do. And having a kid would make me lose out on something that I want to do. And you might be saying, oh, well, you could just have a kid and then do those things. But you really can't, because you kind of have to be rich to do that. Kourtney Kardashian, Khloe Kardashian, Kim Kardashian can hand off their kids to a nanny and continue doing what they want to do because they have the money to do that. I can't even live on my own right now. So how am I going to afford to have a kid and still do the things that I want to do? It's just not feasibly possible. So I would say to all those parents online who are hating on people for choosing to not have kids, they chose to not have kids from seeing people like you. There are some people who love having kids. I mean, when I was in middle school, there was a kid who, I think she has 2 kids now, but when I was in middle school, she would talk about how all she wanted to do was to be a mom. And she did that. And I love that for her. And I'm happy that she's happy with having kids. But we shouldn't just force people to have kids just because of some sort of duty. Like, we weren't put on this earth just for every single person to have kids. Overpopulation is a thing. And I think that we shouldn't, you know, pressure people and shame people for not having kids when it's like they have the right to do whatever they want with their lives. If I brought a kid into the world right now, the kid would have a lot of issues. I guess I would have a couple of years to get it right, but I don't even know how to hold a baby. I do, but it's just like a lot of things that I think we shouldn't just shame people for not having kids. It's kind of wrong. So the reason why this movement is looked down upon is because people are hurt that there are people in the world that don't want to have kids. Whether it's, my mom wants to be a grandmother, someone has to give my mom a grandkid. you know um I have such a big family, and seeing so many children, I didn't really want kids, but that's a whole other thing. But it's like we look at history and we see, for instance, the 1950s, which is what people call the golden era, which I just call it the racist era, segregation era. People just were told to have kids because that was just what you were supposed to do. These alpha males online talk about how women are only meant to be vessels for having children. While you go out and hunt, you hunt or whatever men do. That's what men do, and women are just meant to stay at home and take care of their kids. But then also, it's like if you don't have kids and you just decide to stay home, suddenly you're seen as lazy, like the stay-at-home girlfriend trend. you're seen as like, oh, you're not actually doing anything. You should be having kids if you're just gonna stay at home. And it's like, no, you don't really have to do that. You could just do Pilates every day and get sweet green salads and wear your Lululemon workout set and like have a good old time. You don't have to do what society tells you to do. But I think the issue is like, why are people so obsessed just because someone doesn't want to have kids? Why is that so polarizing? Why does that matter? People are going to have kids across the world. Just because you don't have a kid doesn't mean it's going to really change much in the grand scheme of things. So my personal thoughts are that I don't want children at this particular moment. I don't want to say like, oh, I don't want to have kids ever, because I could change my mind. I'm literally 21. I could change my mind next year that I want to have 10 children. So it's, depending on how people grow up. But what I will say, I saw a TikTok of this girl that was mentioning how she never wanted a kid, and even when she got her first baby dolls, she would hate them. I was the same way. I used to draw. Maybe I shouldn't say that. I didn't like baby dolls growing up. I would abuse them actually in my youth. I had this big chunky baby doll and I'd throw it down the stairs because I thought it was funny. And people say I should have kids, but I wouldn't do that to a real life baby. I want to make that very clear. I'm not a sociopath. But growing up, I never really wanted kids. I never really saw myself getting married. I just saw myself being famous. I saw myself just being an actor, and that was pretty much all I wanted to do. Um, so I think it's interesting, but I never saw it as something that was weird because there are so many kids in my family, at least. I have a really huge family. So I saw myself as, if I don't have a kid, I mean, other people in my family are going to have kids and it's going to make up for that fact. I dislike children so much that even when I was younger, like I'm talking about when I was 5, 6 years old, I would try to make myself be a mini adult. I would ask my mom to buy like those little like fake kitchens and those fake like grocery store stuff so I could pretend to be like an adult because I wanted to be an adult so bad. Because I hated being a kid. I hated not knowing anything. I hated barely being able to do stuff by myself. I just wanted to be an adult. That's how much I dislike children. I love kids now. Kids are so funny and goofy, and I love playing with kids. I love, entertaining their little questions. Like I love whenever kids ask me like, why is the sky blue, and then I give them the real answer and then they look like so confused. That is so funny to me. I love kids, I really do. I just don't at this point want to raise a child, but I could eventually. But all this to say, I personally am probably not going to have a kid in the next 5 years. I have too many things that I want to do with my life, and having a kid would just kind of like halt my want to do these things. But I also think that it's okay if you want to have a kid, but you also shouldn't shame people for not wanting to have kids because, again, it is not your life, it is their life, and they can do with it what they want. Because you pressure somebody to have kids, but guess who's raising those kids? Them, not you. There are so many kids that are in the foster care system, so many kids whose parents end up unaliving themselves because they just can't be parents, or abandoning their kids in the field. People who abuse their kids for years and years, people who literally murder their children because they don't want kids that bad. And you're trying to sit back here and tell me that everybody should have a kid, everybody should have a baby. No, not everybody should have a baby because some people don't have the mental capacity to take care of a kid. Some people don't have the money to take care of a kid. And we shouldn't just hate. Like, mind your business, man. If something isn't harming other people, keep it to yourself. Like, don't hate on somebody for choosing a different life path just because you decided something. Because if you're a parent, chances are you chose to be there. So why are you hating on somebody who's choosing to not be a parent? I guess that's it. That's my video. I don't really have much else to say. But if you are a part of the child free movement, feel free to comment down below and let me know why you've decided to be child free. Or if you're a teenager and you're thinking about not having kids in general, let me know your thoughts on that. This is a weird video. I just had a lot, like, it's been on my mind for the past like 2 months. Not the voice crack. The past 2 months I've been thinking about this child free movement and how intense it has gotten. Obviously, don't hate on people, treat people with kindness and all that stuff. But yeah, that's literally it. I have nothing else to say. I'm just gonna ramble on for the next hour if I don't just stop filming. So Make sure to like the video if you liked it. That would be very lovely, great, and grand. Make sure to subscribe to me because I post every single week, and I post very interesting topics. At least I think it's interesting. I could be wrong. You may think I make horrible videos, but I am trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. So that would be nice if you could subscribe to me. I would love it very much. I do like to make community posts, and I am trying to dabble. I'm trying to dabble a little bit more into some other things, to do like a Patreon, second channel, stuff like that. Because my goal is to do YouTube more full time. I want to dedicate more time to my channel, but I can't because I have bills and I have to make money, and I don't make a lot of money on my channel. So if you want to help me with that, subscribe, like, watch my videos. That would be so lovely and great. But that's literally it. So make sure to stay happy, stay healthy, and stay safe. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.